In far north Queensland, there is a small town celebrating a big history. Alarish was established in 1920 as a World War I discharged soldiers' settlement. The soldiers named their new home in commemoration of the taking of Alarish during the war. At the time, Alarish was part of Palestine. Today, it is a city of Egypt. During World War I, Egypt's Alarish was a critical supply base for Australian soldiers, saving many lives. Australia's Alarish flourished throughout the 20th century as the soldiers embarked on building a prolific sugarcane industry. "100 years later, in 2020, Alarish remains committed to preserving the significance of its rich history. To celebrate its centenary on 1st of August 2020, Alarish unveiled a new cenotaph featuring a rising sun forged by its local blacksmith. Experience the fascinating history of Alarish by visiting the Alarish Diggers Museum.
Fellow councillors, staff and residents viewing via live stream, good morning all and welcome. I acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of the land on which this meeting is being held and pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Now hand over to Pastor Rob McGarry from the Tully Family Church to deliver the opening prayer. Father.
Thanks, Mark. I'd like to read a scripture from 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 9. It says, "However, as it is written, what no eye has seen, what no ear heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love him. These are the things God has revealed to us by his Spirit. The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God." Inspire, that's part of what the Holy Spirit does, is inspire us. And in Middle English was used to mean breath or put life or spirit into the human body. For those with a living Christian faith, this is an ongoing experience where inspiration comes, putting life or spirit, inspiration inside of us from the Spirit of God. As a trained scientist, I was taught to be guided by facts and not by assumption or opinion. It's really important to generate data, gather the facts, and objectively decide what it's telling you, not relying on bias or opinion. People may think this is the only aspect to being a scientist, but there's something else, inspiration. What is important is that light bulb moment when inspiration comes that links all the facts and brings all the explanations together. Often it's when a scientist is playing golf, relaxing in the garden, out exercising, or on a picnic. I don't suggest that's probably what I should do during the day, but it does come in that time. An architect considers both design and engineering. The engineering work is based entirely on facts and physical laws, but design comes from inspiration and new ideas, considering new possibilities. Inspiration is part of a living of a living Christian, of a Christian living with a faith, not a religious faith, a living faith, with inspiration coming from the Spirit of God. Inspiration brings vision because you can see the possibilities. As you gather today, let the facts speak for themselves, let opinion be limited to the facts, and make room for inspiration that leads to new vision for our Shire. Can we have an inspired meeting today? And as we do that, can we pray? Father, we just thank you that you've created all things well, and you've created us well with so many different abilities to think and consider facts, but you've also created us to be inspired. And Lord, I pray today that there'll be less opinion and more inspiration. That, Father, as the councillors leave the meeting today, that there be new things, new possibilities seen, new facts, new ways forward. And I just pray for each of the council members here this morning. Just thank you for them. Just pray you bless this meeting, and this will be a really good time as they gather together. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Thanks, Larry.
We now move on to apologies. Councillors, are there any apologies to be listed? Take that as a no. The declaration of conflict of interest. Declaration of prescribed conflict of interest or declarable conflicts of interest. Please use this opportunity to make public any prescribed conflicts of interest or declarable conflict of interest in respect of the items in the agenda. Councillors should use this opportunity to disclose and or comment on other councillors and or staff interests in accordance with the Act and the regulations. Councillors, any conflicts to declare? Councillor Farinelli.
Mr Mayor, I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 4.2 and will leave the room at that stage.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli.
Yeah, with your permission, Mr Mayor, I've received written notice in accordance with the legislation in respect of that conflict.
I also declare a conflict at item 4.2 and will leave the room at that point, and Deputy Mayor Barry Barnes will take the chair.
Equally, through you, Mr Mayor, I've received written advice of that conflict in accordance with the legislation.
Any further conflicts to declare? Okay, we'll move on to item...
Through you,
CEO.
Through you, Mr Chairman, I believe that Councillor Millwood has one in 4.1.
Yes, through the chair, I have a declarable conflict of interest in 4.1. Thank you.
And through you, Mr Mayor, and with your permission, not only have I received written notice of that from Councillor Millwood in accordance with the legislation, but also I apologise for my error, and when that matter comes up, I'll add some dates to the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Okay, we move on to item 1, confirmation of the minutes. Would somebody move the true and accurate record, please? Moved by Councillor Barnes, seconded by Councillor Millwood. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We move on to item 2, any business arising from the previous minutes. Councillors, any business arising? Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, I just have the question again, has anybody chased up the car on Jack Drive, and is there any explanation about what's about to happen with that? Thank you.
Through you, Mr Chairman, I'll invite Mr Sadler to speak to this one, if I may.
Welcome, Mr Sadler.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the Chair, Councillor Millwood, we have followed that up, and an email was sent through to you in relation to it is on private property and we don't have jurisdiction over that. The advice is that to go back, for the landowner to go back to police and find the details of who owns the vehicle, so that can be followed up through that process. Because then ultimately the owner of the vehicle is the person that should be sorting the issue out.
Any further business arising, councillors? If not, I'll move on to item 3, community and culture. Item 3.1, page 65, community grants scheme annual grant applications, and Ms Hanson will present this report. Morning, Ms Hanson.
Good morning. Is this switched on? Okay. This report summarises the recommendations of the Cassowary Coast Regional Council Grants Review Panel for the expenditure of the 2021 annual grants round and recommends 9 applications with a total of $27,000 for ratification by Council. There was 11 applications that came through and 9 were recommended. Was there any questions that you needed to ask?
Any questions for the officer, Councillor Farinelli?
Just through the chair, I think it's just, there's in the recommendation, we've got at the moment $18,000 for 6, but I think we need to, I'll be happy to move that, but it's to move the recommendation for 27,000 for the 9, is that right?
No. There's...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was a update of the.
I'm on my civic thing, and I've got recommendation that council approved funding for 18,000 for 6. Yeah, the recommendation, the executive summary does say the 27,000 for 9, but the recommendation is not reading on mine.
I've got 9 applications for 27,000.
Yeah, just through the.
Funding of 18,000 for 6 recommended applications, and then it breaks down into the 27.
9 applications.
Yeah, ours is 18.
Yeah.
Recommendation under that, sorry, through you, Mr Chair.
Yep.
Reads that the council approved the funding for the 6 recommended
Yeah.
applications.
Yeah, we must. Sorry, through the chair, we must have an old.
Yeah.
There must be an amended report, and we've got the So just to clarify that I was part of the panel that that did assess these, and we did assess and approve 9, just so that councillors are aware that it is 9 and 27,000. And just to also clarify that in the background, the Mayor actually stood in for Councillor Chewy, but it is actually Councillor Chewy that's on the panel. Yeah, the Mayor did just stand in for her as part of this assessment process.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
No, it's 9 It's for 9. Okay. Yeah. So do you want me to list? Do you want me to list the 9 that have been recommended?
Yes, please, Ms Hanson. Yep.
Okay. The first one was the Silkwood Clay Target Club, and these are all for $3,000. Silkwood Clay Target Club, the Hinchinbrook Regional Arts Association, the Tully Horse Performance Centre, the Cardwell UFO Festival Inc., Mission Beach Surf Life Saving Club, Innisfail and District Men's Shed, Innisfail Mini Rail Inc., the Innisfail United Football Club, and the Tully Motorcycle Club Inc. So there was 9 applications at $3,000 each for $27,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the recommendation changes. Yeah, move that, Councillor Farinelli.
Do you want me to move? Do I need to amend that? Do you amend that?
Yeah, so through you, Mr Chairman, if I may, Council's officer, there's an error in the agenda. The council officer's recommendation is actually for those 9 at $3,000 each for $27,000. So that recommendation can be moved.
Moved by Councillor Farinelli, seconded by Councillor Millwood. Any further comments, councillors? All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Ms Hanson. Yes. Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, I just wanted to say while Kath was there, you do a very good job of all that. Thank you for that. And I also wanted to let people know that the next round will be in 12 months' time, and that we do encourage that you prepare now for then. And if you need any help, then Kath's a lady to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now move on to item 4, Governance, Environment and Finance, item 4.1, page 68, the ALGWA conference, and the CEO will deliver this report.
So through you, Mr Chairman, Councillor Millwood is declaring her interest, has left the room, will take no part in the discussion or the vote. Mr Chairman, the ALGWA, the Australian, I should avoid acronyms, the Australian Local Government Women's Association Conference, or Professional Development Workshop rather, is to be held tomorrow. The recommendation is that Council approve the request from Councillor Millwood to attend the Australian Local Government Women's Association Queensland Branch Professional Development Workshop. And I do beg your pardon, Mr Chairman, in the recommendation before you it says 26th of March. My understanding is it's 25th of March. It is the 26th of March.
Yeah, okay. Today's the 25th, Mr CEO.
Oh, I've lost a day. The 26th of March, and that the costs of $706.77 insofar as they relate to Councillor Millwood's attendance be covered by Council from our allocated conferences and deputations budget, Mr Chairman.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Farinelli.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm actually attending this workshop, but I'm funding it myself as I am an executive of ALGWA, and plus I wanted to actually speak to the report and stay in the room. I provided a bit of the background for this, and while it does say about women struggling with their current roles as councillors, it's also about, and some of the areas that we'll be working through with this workshop, is also about how women are treated and how they can respond to actions. And we'll be learning a lot of that. This was something that was identified by many of the executive as an issue, especially with the new Balcara laws and councillor referral of councillor and different inappropriate conduct in meetings, and so we felt there was a need to address and sort of provide women within our organisation with an opportunity to know what their rights are. I also wanted to just point out that as far as the breakdown of the costings is, the $30 registration fee won't apply to Councillor Millwood because she is a member of ALGWA, and therefore as a member of ALGWA she will not be required to pay the $30 registration fee. So it's actually it's the registration fee applied to non-members of ALGWA, just to so that everyone knows that cost won't be. But this is a really great workshop, and as I said, we're both attending as members of ALGWA, and we look forward to bringing back some information on what we've learned as part of this workshop.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further comments, councillors? Somebody, you moved the motion, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you.
So through you, Mr Chairman, the expense in fact incurred will be $676.77,
Thank you.
absent of the registration.
Item 4.2, page 70, councillors' request for leave of absence. The CEO will present this report, and Deputy Mayor will take the chair because I'm leaving the room as I have a conflict.
Through you, Mr. So, through you, Mr. Chairman, I think Council can take that as a declaration of interest. As previously mentioned, both Councillor Nolan and Councillor Farinelli have left the room. The Mayor has requested leave of absence for Monday the 26th of July to Friday the 6th of August inclusive, and Councillor Farinelli from Tuesday the 20th of April to Friday the 30th of April 2021 inclusive, and it's my recommendation that leave of absence be granted to both the Mayor and Councillor Farinelli.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Mr CEO. Oh, Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, in 4.2, I also would like the recommendation to be amended to include my leave, which was emailed on the 11th of the 3rd, 21. There was a bit of a mishap there, and I'd like that to be included.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, I was going to deal with that as a separate one because but I can bring it into this one if you wish. Through you, Mr. Well, that means you'll have to.
I'll leave the room.
Yeah. So quorum being maintained, through you, Mr. Chairman, we have Councillor Millwood requesting leave of absence from the 1st of the 4th to the 5th of the 4th, inclusive. No, I beg your pardon. For the 1st of the 4th, and then the 5th of the 4th to the 12th of the 4th, returning 13th of the 4th. The email in question I'll read through you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. This is from the 12th of March. Good afternoon, James. I'm requesting leave for the days of 1st of April and 5th of April through 12th of April, returning on the 13th of April, and equally I recommend that leave of absence be granted for that period.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Would anyone like to speak for the motion or against the motion? Jeffrey? Nick? Trudy? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All those in favour? Okay, unanimous. Just one question, Mr. CEO. Just explain these, I think when the councillors get back in the room, just explain, like, do we have to notify if we're going to have 1 day off, 2 days off? We don't really have much of a format in place, and I think it sort of needs a bit of work. Like, I've noticed there that notifications come in on 1 day. Like, are we going to get down to that, or are we going to, if it's got to be so many days or how many weeks? Could we just speak about that when the chairman comes back in?
Certainly,
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, in your absence, Councillor Barnes has requested that I make a comment as to leave of absences. The Local Government Act and the Local Government Regulations provide a very extensive list of councillors' responsibilities and duties, and without quoting precisely all of those for the sake of brevity, it goes to councillors being available so as to be able to participate in workshops, councillor information sessions, training sessions, other formal council activities. The legislation is strengthened by virtue of reference to the model rules provided by the Department of Local Government, which provides that leave of absence is necessary if a councillor is placed in a position where he or she is incapable of that level of participation. I'm perfectly happy to distribute the sections of the Local Government Act and the regulations and the model rules, and I have already provided those on request to a couple of councillors. So in respect of your question, does this come down to 1 day? Then the answer is no. If the 1 day happened to be a council meeting, then an apology for that council meeting would be all that would be required. And if a single day doesn't prevent a councillor from doing the things that are required under the Act and the regulations and under the model rules, then a councillor would not require leave of absence at all. So the issue, I suppose, becomes such that if a councillor is aware that there'll be significant formal council activity during a period of time and they're unavailable, that would indicate that leave of absence should be requested. Does that answer the...
Yep, thank you, Mr CEO. Thank you, Councillor Barnes, for taking the chair. We now move on to item 5, asset sustainability, 5.1, page 72, the CCRC capital report, and Mr Fisher will present this report. Welcome, Mr Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Morning, councillors. Councillors, this is the February report for the Capital Works Program update. As at the end of February, we were 65% through the deliverable program. Just make a couple of points about the report if I can. The table that is attached to the report, what we've done is previously this had been a lag report, so effectively the data that was seen or presented was as at the end of the previous month. So what we've done is we've transitioned, albeit certainly next month's report will definitely be a much more complete representation, but that this report is actually a expectation of where we are at the time the report is presented. So rather than saying presenting this table based on last month, that we presented based on the end of the month and that we're reporting in, and that is obviously requiring our teams to shift a little bit in their thinking and to actually be 2 weeks prior to this meeting be estimating where they expect their projects to be at. So I guess that does put in here a degree of uncertainty, but we thought it would be better to be telling councillors more current information about our projection of works. The table on page 75, we list there our funding sources and obviously the completion dates for those projects. I'll just highlight a couple key ones there. A lot of those ones we have completed the work and claimed the money, and recently just one of highlight is we've recently been paid both our final claims for the Tully Grandstand, so that's a great achievement and it certainly helps the bank balance. The Drfa funding for 2018 and 2019, most of those projects in that program are complete. There is a couple of works packages outstanding, but they are in the final stages of completing that work at the moment. Schumann Road is a small project in that list that Council Day Labor are going to undertake themselves. It's only a small project and is scheduled for completion. And obviously a large project in that program is the Upper Darragee project. Yes, as councillors are aware, we are awaiting the outcome of a compulsory acquisition process for that project. We have been in recent discussions with the state government and understand that a decision in regards to this matter is imminent, and hope to be able to provide council an update on that in a fairly short amount of time. We are, with that project, applying for an extension of time through the state government, QRA, just, I guess, to limit the risk associated with that project. We've kept them well aware of the process that we are going through with this compulsory acquisition and I guess doing everything we can to mitigate that risk around that project. Two other funding sources there are the Works for Queensland round 3 and the COVID round. There are some projects in that list there that are, I guess, at risk of completion, and our intent there is to have a workshop with councillors, not a workshop, an information session with councillors on the 6th of April to look at those current rounds and also the future round which has been announced to make sure we remove the risk of any under expenditure in that Works for Queensland allocation. So happy to take any questions through the chair.
Thank you, Mr Fisher. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, Mr Fisher, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
I just, could you just elaborate on what's happening on Schumann Road, also what's happening with Atherton Road, and any progress on the Tully Caravan Park?
Sure.
Thank you.
Through the chair. I'll start with Atherton Road. So the design has been completed. So we are still, I guess, finalising. There's a bit of interaction there with MSF in the delivery of that work and working through that process with them. We intend to be calling quotes. It's not a it's not at a value of work that requires tenders. So we'll be calling quotes from local contractors probably next week. I guess we've waited for that design to be finished. So that should see delivery of that work, even though it's operational work, commence in late April. Schumann Road, my understanding of that is it's a culvert project, minor upgrade and replacement and improving resilience of that site. As I said, delivered through day labour. I believe the materials have been ordered and those guys will deliver that before the end of financial year. Tully Caravan Park, we've got contractors on site there commencing the work on the sewerage and the water and power. There's some major renewal of the switchboards at that site. I guess electrical equipment in the wet tropics doesn't last that long, and that site hasn't seen much attention in its electrical systems in the recent years. So work on that's underway. The amenities block should be hopefully delivered this week. It's constructed and on its way, and we'll get that positioned. And then obviously once we get those services in, the works on the slabs and the tidying up the roads and the like will also commence. So I guess the weather availability of our teams and our contractors has left us a little bit behind where we would like to be, but certainly still on track to have that one finished April timeframe. So.
Any further questions, Councillor Barnes?
Good, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Fisher, I see there's 129 projects in the system and we've deferred 24. Now, going forward, do you think that some of these projects were short of revenue or personnel? And what would you be suggesting to try and get some of these projects in the future delivered on time and I'd say within budget?
Sure. Through the chair, obviously what we're seeing in North Queensland and through discussions at our regional road group through FNQ Rock, we are certainly not alone in this boat. There is an immense amount of work on with TMR, huge amounts of money flowing through the federal government to TMR, and what we're seeing is that is consuming the top end of the contractor market. It's also consuming the designers, the soil testers, and a lot of plant hire. So I guess in talking with our peers, we are seeing every council in North Queensland struggle with access to contractors, access to the other support services we need to deliver works. I guess there are a couple of strategies which we consider as helping us in this area, and obviously I don't think there's any silver bullets that will fix this overnight. One of the things we see as key is developing a program to work with our local contractors to increase their capacity and capability as well, so that we can use them more effectively and to undertake more work within our region. We also see that I guess an approach for consideration for council would be to really look at when we look at next year's budget and adopt something that really allows us to deliver, and that might be a shift in some of the projects that are more readily delivered in terms of less effort in regards to consultation or design or some other type of approvals is another thing which can slow a project down, and adopt a budget that is ultimately deliverable, so that as a percentage we can be getting up there, and that may also, I guess that money would then be put into reserves, and you would get ahead of the curve, both in terms of getting those designs and that work ready, but also then having your contractors and our own crews, with increased capacity to really, buy ourselves some breathing room and then really, get back onto the delivery. So.
Thank you, Mr Fisher. Any further questions? Councillor Farinelli.
Through the chair, I think we as a region have been very fortunate in previous years to be very successful in receiving external funding. The last thing we want to be doing is knocking that back, because at the end of the day, that actually takes pressure off our own budget, and us having to find money to fund those capital projects. So I think the direction Council's taking with actually trying to build the capacity of local contractors is a fantastic approach, I really think it's just an amazing, wonderful opportunity, because, ultimately the last thing we want to be doing is saying no to external funding. If anything, we want more and more to take that pressure off such a low minimal ratepayer base. Thank you very much. I think the approaches that you're looking at is incredible and very positive for this region that has, as I said, been very fortunate in the past and very thankful of the support we've received. And let's just keep going with that and keep going with the wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Councillor Millwood.
Yes, through the chair. So for any of those contractors, local contractors out there that would be interested in taking up this opportunity, who would be their go-to?
So at the moment, I guess our Senior Contracts Administrator, Phil Castle, is leading that project, and thank you for the opportunity. I must say I'm the one who gets to come up here and present, but there is a whole team of people who are developing these strategies and working towards implementing, so it's definitely not just me. So Phil Castle, and we are at the moment reviewing the way we use our contractors across the region, and we've been working with Phil, and he's going to be setting up things where we reach out to those contractors and have conversations with them in the same way we have our courageous conversations within our organisation, is have a real genuine honest about the opportunity that this presents, but also the fact that for some of them it does require a different way of thinking and conducting themselves, but we think in the long term that will provide our region and their businesses benefits. So,
thank you, Mr Fisher. Councillor Chewy.
Through the chair, good morning, Mr Fisher. Just a couple of questions. Councillor Barnes, thank you for asking about the deferrals, but do we have a time frame on the projects that are being deferred in completion or moving along?
Sure. Through the chair, we will be able to provide you an update on that once we start to set our budget for next year. Certainly, a lot of the projects that we've deferred, it would be my expectation that because of the nature they've been on the program, that they would roll into early next financial year. So, and that should be the case with most of those. But I guess the full information on that will be available once we set next year's budget and start to then work out our priorities in that implementation.
Thank you. Just the signage for the entrance to the towns. We've had this discussion many times. I see it on the list. Are we any closer to actually installing and seeing those signs?
Sure. I will have to take that one on notice. I don't know if David or anyone else has got insight into that. The regional entrance signage.
The wayfinding strategy, Mr Goodman.
Take it on notice.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you. It's just been on the table for quite some time, and I just think we'd all, as well as community, would like to see them. And just well done at Marks Park getting a billboard up. I believe Mr McBride is sort of running with that as well. So it was great that it was on the list, and I know that will be an added bonus to the Marks Park area. So thank you for that.
Any further questions for Mr Fisher? Councillor Farinelli. Move the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Millwood. Before we go to the vote, I just want to ask you a question about Green River Drive Caravan Park. When will the manager be installed?
So we've had some really good applicants in that process. I guess we are shortlisting and identifying the most suitable candidate there. So I would expect that by the time we get someone in there, it'll be probably towards the end of April. We have a fair bit of work there still to do in terms of vegetation clearing, which, obviously we don't want to... we probably will end up with it open and potentially still a bit of work. There's been quite a few, vegetation management. For those, we won't be removing anything that's endangered, protected or otherwise. We're removing mainly noxious weeds that have grown up along the riverbank. That's the time frame.
Mr. Fisher. Mr. Goodman.
Through the chair, I have been able to dig that out of my last report. Mr. Fisher's going to run just in case there's any supplementary questions. I have done dig that answer up out of the last report I received in March. The last report says March, but obviously that's not the case. That's not going to happen because we're very close to that. I know the contractor has manufactured most of the materials for those entry signs. We haven't paid for those yet because they haven't been delivered, but we're in that sort of final stages of that project. So the contractors advised they've manufactured the signs. They're now going through the process of working out delivery and installation. So it's soon. Yeah, it's the best answer I can give you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? Just want to mention yesterday Win TV visited town. It was for the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. They wanted to do a story on that. Then they dropped off at our headquarters and wanted to do a story on the Innisfail Bowls Club and Hadrill Park. So I just want to say that the Bowls Club is looking fantastic. Mega Construction have done a wonderful job stabilising the bank, and I noticed that the green will be installed in the next couple of weeks. So it seems though it's ahead of schedule, and Mega Construction have done a really good job in that regard. Hadrill Park will be open for business in May. 50 fully contained RVs will be allowed onto the site, and the feedback around the town's been really positive. People are keen to engage with accommodation there and use our pathways to do their exercise and get into town to support our local businesses. So if we can convince CMCA to install a docket box, we'll be able to measure the positive impact on our economy, and I'll be encouraging them strongly to do that. So it's no good just saying, oh, it's brought a lot of positive to the CBD. We want to measure it. We want to know it in dollars and cents, how much these grey nomads are going to be delivering to our economy. So the other thing I note about the discussion around the upgrade of Greenway and River Drive is why is it being gutted? Why this, why that? Well, the premise of it is it's COVID works funding. We're taking an opportunity. COVID brought a lot of challenges, but COVID has also brought a lot of opportunities. And the COVID works funding is assisting council to upgrade those facilities, and Greenway and River Drive are going to be far better attractions for tourists going forward because of that work. So I just want to thank our staff for that. Okay, we have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to item 6, Planning and Regional Development, 6.1, page 87, and Mr Horton will present this report. Mr Horton.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Morning, Council. Hope everyone's well. Council, item 6.1, we have an application for permanent road closure for an area of Borton Street down at Maruyan Harbour, adjacent to lot 55, 51 and 169, Council. Council, it's an area of 2,250 square metres. The department has asked for this because during the process they have to ask for our review on a permanent road closure. So at the moment, Department of Resources have sent that letter on the 12th of March 2001 asking for our views on the permanent road closure. The recommendation is that the Department of Resources be advised that Council does not object to the permanent road closure of an area of 2,250 square metres of Borton Street, adjacent to Lot 55, CP 844007 and Lot 51, Lot 169, Marillion Harbour, as shown on the drawing, Council, subject to Lot 51 and Lot 169 being amalgamated to form a single lot. So it's all owned by the current Ports North at the current time. They're facilitating this to close that road to facilitate everything into one parcel for future development of the site. Council, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr Horton? Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Horton, if we go ahead with this recommendation, this will be a great benefit for future development, will it?
Through the Chair, it offers the opportunity for a larger parcel. It has access to Marillion Harbour Road. Ports North has its strategic direction in place for that whole area. What they wish to do with it will be their call, but it offers the opportunity. It's a larger parcel and provides benefit in that way.
Any further questions for Mr Horton? Somebody moved the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Barnes, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to item 6.2, page 92, application for reduction in infrastructure charges, and Mr Thomas will present this report. Welcome, Mr Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, Council.
Before Mr Thomas presents this report, I just want to highlight this will be one of his final reports. Cairns City Council's gain is Cassowary Coast's huge loss. Having said that, you're a young man and you've spent 6 months with us as a graduate planner. You're now a fully qualified planner, and on behalf of my fellow councillors and staff, just want to wish you all the best in your future career path. I've got no doubt you've got new CEO credentials written all over you, mate. I think planning is going to be your basis of your career, but you have all the people skills to go much further in your career, and on behalf of all 7 here and staff, all the best. Hand over to you.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Mr Mayor, for those kind words. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity this organisation's provided me for sort of my personal development. I've been lucky enough to work with some great people in this organisation and get to know them personally and professionally. So yeah, I'll always be grateful for this opportunity coming out of uni as a graduate from this organisation, so it's much appreciated. Thank you. Alrighty, through the Chair, as per page 92, Council is in receipt of a request from Matthew Price for a 100% reduction in infrastructure charges relating to MCU 2050. The charges relate to a material change of use for a dual occupancy on land described as Lot 13 on SP 213565, situated at Tradewinds Drive, Cardwell. The application was approved subject to conditions on the 20th of January 2021. An infrastructure charges notice was issued on the 20th of January as well for the amount of $23,471.64. Council's Activate Cassowary Coast Development Incentive Reduction in Infrastructure Charges Scheme Policy was adopted by Council Resolution on the 12th of December 2019 and came into effect on the 16th of December 2019. In order to be eligible for the reduction in the infrastructure charges, the development must be approved and the permit issued by Council on or after date of the adoption of the policy. Where the development which is the subject of the permit will be completed within 3 years of the date of the approval taking effect and meet the eligible criteria of the policy. However, Council may use its discretion to grant a reduction in infrastructure charges where the development does not meet the eligible criteria if the development can demonstrate it can provide significant economic benefits to the region. The applicant proposed to develop the site to contain the dual occupancy to be utilised as the accommodation for a fishing charter business carried out off-site. The demand for the tourism component of the operation that will be carried out off-site will contribute to the economic activation for the Cardwell locality. As a result of the development meeting the required criteria of the policy, it is recommended that the request for the 100% in reduction of infrastructure charges be approved by Council, provided the development completes all work in accordance with the requirements of the decision notice issued for the development prior to the 20th of January 2024, happy to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions for Mr Thomas? If not, would somebody move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Farinelli, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And item 6.3, page 96, material change of use, short-term accommodation. Mr Thomas.
Through the Chair, Council is in receipt of an application for a material change of use for short-term accommodation, 6 one-bedroom villas, 2 caretakers' residence and ancillary shed, pool and gazebo. The application was prepared by John Jennings for the establishment of the use within the Township Zone, Greater Mission Beach Residential Precinct, on land described as Lot 4 on SP 213774, situated at 8 Coonangabar Close, Mission Beach. The applicant has proposed for the site to be utilised to provide for short-term holiday stays for adults, ranging from 1 to 21 nights, with 6 fully self-contained one-bedroom villas, including 1 accessible unit. The proposed development will feature ancillary recreational facilities, including a gazebo containing a barbecue area and toilet situated adjacent to the communal pool for all guests to utilise. 2 caretakers units have been proposed on the site to manage the use. The proposed development will provide a further tourism option for the Cassowary Coast region in the form of short-term holiday stays and is situated within close proximity to a variety of services within the areas surrounding the Mission Beach Village Green that features a high level of walkability and connectability. The proposal will result in infill development occurring on an existing subdivided lot and will utilise existing service infrastructure provided, including water, sewer, roads and stormwater. 1 holiday unit and 2 caretaker units will be consolidated within a 3-storey building. However, the topography of the land lends itself to this style and scale of the building. In particular, the building will be 2.7 metres below the natural ground level at some points following excavation works, and the top of the structure will be at a similar height to the highest ground level of the lot, sloping lot. The height of the structure is consistent with the surrounding uses and existing approvals in Coonangabar Close. 2 Coonangabar Close contains existing units that exceed the maximum 2 storeys under the current scheme, and 4 and 6 Coonangabar Close contain existing approval for 28 units that feature a 3-storey design. Therefore, the proposed development is of a similar scale to the existing improved uses within this immediate surrounding locality and will not impact upon the vibrancy and viability of the area. The small scale of the accommodation facility will not produce any impacts that differ significantly from existing improved uses. Therefore, the proposal is considered generally consistent with the Cassowary Coast Regional Council Planning Scheme and is recommended for approval subject to reasonable and relevant conditions.
Thank you, Mr
Happy
Thomas.
to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr Thomas. Councillor Chewy.
Not a question, but even though I live at Mission Beach, I still get confused with the addresses, and I just want to point out it's the area behind the hub, near the post office and up on the hill there. That's correct, just so.
Yeah, through the Chair, correct. It's the 2 streets behind from the Village Green area, Porter Promenade.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Barnes.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to talk for this project because I think we're lucky that it's so close to the busy part of Mission Beach, especially when we're chasing more development there and also currently in the midst of a funding application for that very same area. So I think a project like this is going to complement it, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further questions for Mr Thomas? Councillor Farinelli moved, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. And bon voyage.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
We move on to item 6.4, page 161. Councillor Millwood.
Sorry, through the Chair, I just wanted to tell Dylan we were going to miss him. Thank you.
Item 6.4, page 161, delegation report. Mr Horton will present this report.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, Council. Through the Chair, Council, our delegations report for February. Council report shows an area is continuing to grow at the current time, with approvals for February well above the figures from last year and the last 5-year period. The planning applications for the same time as last year are up 48, in which we understand there's a fair few of those that are referral at the same time because we've got a lot of building applications coming through for the grant funding. For those new dwellings. So the building stats for the month showed 64 approvals, which is well up, and a total of 11.1 million in the area to date. The dwelling approvals were 19 for the month, with an overall value of 6.4 million for those 19 approvals, which is nice to see. The dwelling approvals for the calendar year are up by 12 from the last 2 years. Overall to date this year, There's been 93 approvals, up from 70 last year and 57 from the year before. For the financial year, the progressive dwelling dollar value is at 24.6 million for the financial year, well up from 10.6 million from the year before, and the progressive total dollar value for all approvals is at 40.1 million, council, for this progressive total for the financial year, up from 37.1 last year. The progressive total for searches for the year is at 59, just above last year's total, so there's still a lot of searches going through on dwellings and so forth within the area, council. For next month, I'm going to do a bit of ground truthing against the state averages and a few others in my March report in that quarter. So we'll see how we're tracking against other councils and so forth, council. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Any question? Councillor Bourbon.
Yeah, morning, Mr. Horton. Mr. Horton, just a quick question. Around Christmas time, there were some issues with some blocks that were filled at Belvedere and Valletta's estate. What's been the outcome with that situation?
Through the chair, those applications were lodged with council, the relevant applications. We had a couple of operational works applications we needed to deal with. We had to make sure that they were endorsed by an RPEQ design criteria, especially with the batters that we had on one of the properties there. But however, they've all been assessed and approved. So work should be commencing back on those sites to ensure that that's completed in accordance with those plans. So we'll monitor that and ensure that the compliance is met on those two developments.
All right, so if those retaining walls do give way, things like that, the RPQs that you stated, they're liable for that rather than council, is that correct?
Through the chair, everyone has a liability, but the design is done in accordance with the registered professional engineer of Queensland. They have designed it. Most of the liability be falling with those people, yeah. So, but with any job, any risk, there's risk on everything. But the designs have been designed in accordance with the requirements, councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Purban. Any further questions? Just one question about stats, Mr. Horton. Do we have any stats on how many local young people sourced the first home buyer grant, given that there was so much media around it? It was taken up very enthusiastically across Australia. What about our region? Did our young people exercise that right to get hold of that grant funding?
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, I can find that detail out for you. From my own knowledge of the area and the people that, you know, over the years, yes, there has been a lot of young people from our area take that up, especially around the Eddy Bay area in Innisfail. There's been a lot down Mission Beach as well, and there's been a few around here. There has been, and even a few people within this organisation. So, terrific. Mr. Mayor, it's good to see, but yeah, I can track down that detail for you through our current stats and let you know.
Yeah, I think the context around that would be a good media release for our comms department, because I know Councillor Purban was very keen on getting our community aware of the federal government package. And we've heard for many years that our biggest exporters are our young people. And if we can get them to build here, they'll stay here and become ratepayers going forward. So I think it's a good piece of media if you can get those stats for us.
Yeah, no problems.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Cool. Any further questions for Councillor Farinelli?
Mr. Mayor, just with regards to those grants, I think a lot of people are taking them up, but my understanding is from, and I've heard quite firsthand, they've applied for them, but they're finding it hard to actually get the money.
Okay.
So, I mean, I might have to sort of look at that into the future, but my understanding is keep filling out the paperwork and getting it out there, but actually getting the money for that 25, they're struggling at the moment. So there may be a need to look at that into the future. It'd be interesting to know if there's any residents within our region that are having issues with that. I know of someone in particular, but whether there's anyone within our region that is experiencing that, because if they are, whether there's a way that we can actually put a bit of pressure to make sure if they have ticked all the boxes and they have got all their paperwork in, that they do receive that grant money.
Yep, thank you for that, Councillor Farinelli. That's a good point. Thank you, Mr Horton.
No problems. Thanks.
Okay, would somebody move the report, please? Moved by Councillor Bain, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor, we move on to item 7, general business. Are there any items of general business? Councillor Chewy.
Through the chair, could I invite Mr Sadler to come to the table, please? I just have a couple of questions. Thank you. Morning again. Mr Sadler, we've had obviously a couple of pretty serious weather events, wet season, we used to call it back in the day. Where I live at South Mission, as I travel along South Mission Beach Road to Woolworths, I think there's 8 really huge landslips, like really ugly landslips, and I know there's more on the Bingle Bay Road. Is it our responsibility? Can you just give me some idea of, do we try and fix it? Are we trying to prevent it from happening again? And who would be responsible for that? Thank you.
Yep, through the chair. Thank you for your question, Councillor Chewy. Part of Emergent Works, we assist the Department of Transport and Main Roads to obviously on those roads and those networks into Mission Beach, both the Tully Mission Beach Road and also the Alarish Mission Beach Road. So we have done those Emergent Works. We have forwarded those slip issues through to the department. We do assist them. Obviously, it is outside our RNPC. They have. It has been referred to them and they've got their inspectors to come and have a look at it. At this stage, as far as we're aware, there is no significant risk there. They will inspect that, and if they want assistance from us to do anything further, they'll come back to us.
So through the chair, with the assistance, does that include re-veg, or do we just let nature take its course? Because it's just, I mean, yeah, that's my question as well.
Yeah, look, through the chair, Main Roads do have guidelines around how they do those type of things and standards. So whatever they propose to do will be within those standards. So if they want us to assist with them to do that work, then we will offer that assistance within their standard and guidelines.
Thank you. Just another question. Driving along as well, I've noticed we've done a lot of spraying. Now, I don't know if we've done more than usual in the amount, or whether it's just that we've had so much green grass this time and compared to in previous years, but the patches of brown are really huge. There's large pieces in gullies and around the signposts. I'm just wondering if we've done more, or is it just because everything is so green that the brown is in huge contrast? I know the slashes have been in around the South Mission Beach area, so that looks much better, but I just can't help but notice the large pieces of brown grass everywhere. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you for your question. As Council is aware, we've had 2 significant weather events this year, so Imogen and Nurin, and we have got a backlog, there's no question about that. There have been many vegetation issues, trees down, those type of things, and I suppose from an emergent work point of view, we have been in that space over the last few weeks. So there is a backlog. Yes, there's a lot more growth as well because of those 2 events, and so we have got contracted services out to help us with boom work as well, but we have also, to try and keep on top of some of these things moving forward, we have got some herbicide spraying. We are working to our program, and yes, sometimes I think it does look browner than it normally would because of the green that's around it. So we are working hard in that space, but we do have a bit of a backlog at the moment.
And just one final question that I have for you. It was great to see the team down at the Village Green and stuff tidying up. I believe Mission Beach, and I'm sure other beach areas, are pretty busy for Easter, but it'd be good to present a tidy town for our visitors. And I believe there's work crews going over to Dunk Island as well to clean up the campground over there.
Yep. Yeah, through the chair, yes, there's many things that we're doing in preparation for Easter across the region, particularly in Mission Beach at the moment. We have had some requests for some of our walking tracks, so Ulysses and the Kennedy track and a few others coming through, particularly from groups like the Paradise Run, so Randall, our good friend down there. We have had some assistance from the work camp that are assisting with us in that space. In relation to the Village Green and stuff like that, we've got stuff scheduled. We have been doing works down there and tidy up, as we have with our other town centres as well, and readiness for Easter. In addition to that, we are programming some clean-up works for the Dunk Island spit and ready for Easter, and have been talking to Nancy from Mission Beach Dive and the chair of the TCT.
Thank you, Mr Sadler.
Councillor Pervin.
Yeah, just a general one. On Monday this week, myself and Councillor Baines attended the Innisfail Community Gardens with the Year 3 from Good Counsel Primary School. I was absolutely impressed with our waste educator, Maria, the way she conducted her presentation to the children there. The response from the school teachers and those that attended was extremely positive. Just a couple of things to point out there. The kids loved the fact that they made themselves a seat out of our old water meters. It was just amazing. They painted their own plastic seats. Just like I said, the positive feedback throughout the whole day. I attended as a parent, and I saw firsthand how well Maria did, and I ran into Councillor Baines, and like I said, I'd just like to thank our waste educator, Maria, for a great job. And I think if we can broaden this to other schools within our region, because waste and recycling starts with kids, they get straight away, my young fellows home, Dad, it's in the wrong bin, it's in the wrong bin. You know, they pick up, they learn. It's amazing. But I think if we can reach out further than just these schools that are doing it, because talking to some of the teachers there, they said, I think we've been doing this for the last 3 or 4 years. They love it. We had the council staff there as well, Bernard Holden. It was a great day, and like I said, I think congratulations to Maria and also the rest of the staff.
Thank you, Councillor Pervin. Do you want to respond to that, Mr Sadler, as the Director?
Happy to, Mr Chair. Look, Councillor Pervin, that's great feedback, and as you know, that we are trying to, as an organisation, change our leadership in relation to waste management. We've got a very passionate chair in relation to waste, and we've got a very passionate team. And Maria, council's made commitment through community education and waste education through Maria, and we are starting to see some great benefits in relation to that. So there's more to come, obviously, but I'm very proud to take that message, and I'll make sure that message is clear back to the team on your behalf.
Thank you, Mr Sadler. Any further general business? Councillor Barnes.
Good, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, Mr Sadler, earlier you touched on emergent works for Cyclone Niran. Could you just elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, thank you for the message for the Chair, Deputy Mayor. As Council and the community are aware, we did have that weather event, and it has impacted many spaces across our region, particularly the banana industry, in a fair few spots. And I suppose our teams and crews have been out working across our network, and we've had a lot of trees down, as mentioned earlier, as well as doing some repairs on our roads. So we are, I suppose, we've still been doing work from the previous event and catching up there, but our guys and girls and crews have been out working really hard across the region, and we've still got more to do, but we're on top of a lot of things at the moment.
Good, thank you very much. Yes, good, thank you, because I've seen the tree trimmers in action, and have they got a lengthy program? Like, are they going to travel all roads, or?
Yep. So through the Chair, look, we have got a schedule that they're working to, and obviously from inspections that have been done across the region, they're obviously working in the bigger issues first, and as we will work out. So we thank the community for their patience and what our resources are out there, and we have got a little bit of help helping us with that as well. So.
All right, good, thank you, Mr Mayor. Also, I'd just like to ask how our recovery projects with Queensland Reconstruction Authority are they on target for completion by June 30th?
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. We are on target. So we do only have 2 packages left at the moment. One's on our gravel roads, and there has been a little bit of delay from December to February with some of those weather events that we have had. But we anticipate at the moment they're on schedule to finish by the end of May. So that gives us a good month's breathing space in relation to the guidelines. In relation to the sealed road stuff, we have got every week we have got a contractor coming in to do those sealed works pieces. There's actually stuff programmed for tomorrow as well, and we're well on track to have that sealed work done before the end of May also.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mr. Sadler. And last but not least, a little bit of a brief update on the Cardwell mountain bike feasibility project.
Yeah, that one's a very exciting one, through the chair. Richard Blanchett and myself have been doing a fair bit of work in that space over the last week, and working with our stakeholders and I suppose our project partners. So we've got some opportunities to still work through with HQ Plantations and QPWS, which we're catching up with some of those individuals next week to work through some of those. We do have an early works project which has come from the Commonwealth Government through to the state for part of pre-COVID recovery type things, and we're trying to work out the scope of that at the moment. So the project is on target for finalising the feasibility study by the end of April, and there's a community meeting already been booked in for the end of April in Cardwell to present that feasibility study and those findings. So we're only about 4 weeks away, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair. Okay, so just for the record, at the last local government meeting held on 11th of the 3rd, 2021, Kylie and I left very quickly after the meeting as we had an invitation to the International Women's Day lunch, which was held by the local CWA ladies in Tully. I'd just like to thank them for a wonderful lunch and the opportunity to speak about International Women's Day on the day. And yeah, we had a wonderful time there. So next I attended the RIQ convention from the 1st to the 3rd of March. RIQ is the Waste Recycling Industry Association of Queensland. I was there for over a 3-day period, and in that time I built some strong networks, and together with our waste department we'll be sharing some of the new practices and innovative ideas. There was some interesting talks on new practices to reduce landfill and a lot of talk about FOGO. FOGO is about using food waste and garden waste to produce high quality compost which can be returned to crops as fertiliser. This is currently being done down south, and I'll talk further to that once I've spoken a bit more to the scientists and people who are introducing that. I had a run through the new composters that we purchased for our dumps, and we talked a bit about creating circular economy. There were many new ideas and practices that we may take into account with our practices to improve our waste services and to contribute to a more sustainable region. And in doing all of this, I too will be joining with Maria, our new education officer, in delivering some education programs. I've been talking to her about it. She's excited, I'm excited, we're all excited about rubbish. And yeah, we're going to build some new networks and try and make our council more sustainable. Yeah, and I've already got into the school space on my own. I've been and done a few presentations, and as Councillor Pervin says, the kids absolutely love it. If we can educate them, I think we're hitting the ball in the right park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't want to be the one that misses out today, so. Oh, and Councillor Millwood has more, Councillor Chewy has more coming afterwards. Firstly, I'd like to reiterate Councillor Pervin's feelings about the community garden event that was held and with Good Counsel College, and it's great to see Good Counsel Primary, sorry, not college. It'd be great to get the college there, but we'll work on that one. But it's great to see, Councillor Millwood, you're already doing some work with the schools, and partnering up with those organisations are only going to strengthen our works in the future towards waste. Another good news story, I don't have the dates or the details as yet, but the tree giveaway is on again this year. We missed out last year because of the COVID scenario. So we'll have some dates coming out shortly, and this is to encourage residents. They can go down to both our nurseries get a couple of trees, and the importance is endemic species that help support wildlife, help support our environment. You know, you can get trees that'll attract butterflies, you can get trees that'll help out the mahogany gliders, and it's about stepping away from people planting exotics in their gardens that can end up being a biosecurity issue in the future. So as those dates come forward, we'll let everyone know. Councillor Chewy and I attended a great event this morning where the Cassowary Coast has donated a superfluous firefighting unit that we've replaced, and that's been given to the Girringan Rangers. So they now have another mobile firefighting unit that they can lift onto their ute, and this one is going to be used particularly by the female rangers when they're doing some work that can be done. Some of the country's broken up into men's business and women's business, so it'll be great to see. We've met a few of the rangers down there this morning. Councillor Chewy, of course, got in a photo, but I was there as well. So I'd just like to congratulate our team and the support that we do provide a lot of our partner groups. One last one, Mr Mayor, with your indulgence. Councillor Chewy and I attended the Edge Hill Bowls Club yesterday on an invitation from Dementia Australia, and it was the launch of the Far North Queensland Dementia Friendly Alliance. Now, we are the 14th region to become part of this, but it was a very insightful, informative and inclusive day. It was a fantastic event. We were asked on the day while we were there, and I think I would love to see our region become part of this alliance. Apparently, dementia, from some of the data, is the second highest killer in Australia, so some of the data that was coming out. There were some great presentations that were given, and some really interesting things that I'd never thought of. So it's all about people being educated, being tolerant, learning patience, but it's about the data around dementia that I did not realise. And some of the presentations done by video were very, very young people, which was really quite inciting. Denise Craig, who OAM, she's one of the senior psychologists up in Cairns, did a presentation about how we can all assist. And one thing she did say to me struck me and stayed with me. So Denise added in her presentation that she hears the comment a lot that someone needs to do something about this. And the comment she did make was that we are all someone, and with all of us someone's working together, we will do something. So Councillor Chewy and I have left our details with Dementia Australia, the FNQ Alliance, Edge Hill Bowls Club. I know we've got some bowls clubs here. So they will be in contact with us in the future, and I'd like to encourage council and the broader community to help us be part of this and assist some of our people in need.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. Councillor Barnes.
Good, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to call on Mr Goodman, please. Good, thank you, Mr Goodman. I'd just like just a brief update on two major things that Council's been very heavily involved with recently, is the dredging and also the sewage treatment plant, all at Port Hinchinbrook. Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Barnes. I'll deal with the dredging first. This week, the Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Communications contacted us to request some additional information to assist them in their assessment of our application for funding. They were fairly simple questions that were asked of us, and we have already responded. They were of note of because my name was put on the application as a project manager. They have asked us for some details of previous projects that I've managed. They wanted to know what stage we were within from procurement, and reading between the lines, I would say that's because if we had already awarded a contract that we would not be eligible for the funding. So we were able to assure them that we are just working through a procurement process to enable us to award a contract if funding was available, but we certainly have not awarded a contract. They wanted some details on the length of time that the project would take, and we were able to provide that. But they also did ask for clarification on the ongoing management of the dredged area for the 5 years after the works was completed, and we advised that management as it is now and as guided by the conform deed, that management would revert back to the reverts back to the liquidator. In this case, would normally or it could be interpreted as if there could be a functional body corporate entity or something that was closely aligned to what looked like a body corporate, that it would revert to the management of that dredging, would revert to them. So we've provided that information. Apart from that, I don't think there is too much more than I can provide in terms of new information in terms of the dredging project. And I guess the only new information that I can provide councillors with regard to sewer is that we have provided some support to Mr. Catter's office in providing him some cost estimates and technical advice on the feasibility of different options of extending the sewered area from just within the existing Port Hinchinbrook area to extending that to various different configurations of additional areas within the Cardwell community itself. But apart from that, there's not too much more I can add.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further? Councillor Chewy.
Yeah, thank you. If I could invite Mr. Horton to come up, please. Thanks, Mr. Horton. I don't know if this is the last one, but I'd like to, on a bit of a good news story, we have been working in council with the Mission Beach Lions Club over the many months for our Instagram frame. I'm proud and pleased to say that it will be going in. So I'll just ask Mr. Horton shortly if he could give us some information on when and exactly where that might be happening. I would like to acknowledge how hard the Mission Beach Lions Club have worked to make this happen. It's been an ongoing project, and also Mr. Jones, who unfortunately isn't here to answer the questions, because I know he has worked closely with the club to make it happen. So I know we were hoping to get it in before Easter, but that's not likely to happen now, but shortly thereafter. And I know I was talking to somebody yesterday, there are a lot of Mission Beach weddings already booked for the upcoming season, so if anyone out there in wedding land is listening, I invite and challenge them to come and have their wedding photo at our hashtag Mission Beach Queensland Instagram frame. And I know that Councillor Farinelli brought up other communities perhaps initiating one, so let this be the start. It's a great project. I think it just adds a lot to the tourism value. Instagram is a popular way that, you know, people, it's just a photo. You don't have to put a word in. So that picture will tell a big story. So thank you, Mr. Horton.
Through the chair, thanks, councillor. Yes, the Instagram frame is on track. It's been made. We've endorsed the works to proceed. We've paid for the artwork and the installation, and the Lions Club has paid for the frame for that project. It's just north of David Street. As you come around from the shrubbery out the front, we've allocated a piece of area out on the foreshore there for it to go in. It overlooks Dunk Island and our beautiful beachscape there. So we look forward to it going in sooner than later. The current works have been programmed with delivery services for that to be implemented, Councillor.
So if you could just pass my thanks on behalf of council to Mr Jones as well, because he has worked very hard and closely with the club to facilitate this. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, definitely, Councillor. Byron does a good job. He's enjoyed working with the Lions and Des, especially, and everyone else involved in producing that quality product that will go onto the beach. So I'll pass that on definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr Horton. Thank you, Councillor Chewy. Mr CEO.
Through you, Mr Chairman, may I take the opportunity to confirm the off-the-cuff answer that I gave to Councillor Bowen's question previously in respect of leave of absence. I now have the relevant sections. Would you like me to go through them very briefly, just to add some? In the extreme, through you, Mr Chairman, at section 162 of the Local Government Act 2009, parentheses Queensland, a councillor ceases to be qualified, amongst other things, if the councillor is absent from 2 or more consecutive ordinary meetings of the local government over a period of at least 2 months, unless the councillor is absent, inter alia, with the local government's leave. So that's one instance where leave of absence is required. Again, through you, Mr Chairman, at section 12 of the Act, the same Act, the duties of a councillor involve participating in council meetings, policy development and decision making for the benefit of the local government area, and apropos of that, the state government model rule of conduct provides that councillors will at a minimum have the following responsibilities: to attend and participate meaningfully in all council meetings, committee meetings, informal meetings, briefings, relevant workshops and training opportunities to assist them in fulfilling their roles, other than in exceptional circumstances or where leave is given. So that supports the answer that I gave to Councillor Barnes previously without the advantage of the legislation to actually read. I add to it though that council as a category 3 council doesn't require that councillors are full-time councillors. So to get precisely to the nub of Councillor Barnes' question, missing a day or 2 here and there would certainly not agitate a requirement for leave of absence if a councillor is complying otherwise with the things that I've just addressed. So is there anything further on that, Mr Chairman?
No, that's good. I think, councillors, you're comfortable with that explanation? Yep. Thank you, Mr CEO. Just a final one. Today was the final meeting under the COVID restrictions, as I understand it. Do we formally, through you, advertise future meetings will be open to the public with the restrictions around social distancing, which Mr Sadler is managing?
Yeah, through you, Mr Chairman, absent of the legislation provides, with your indulgence, Mr Chairman, that you have the capacity to instruct me to close the meeting to the public, provided that it's live streamed. If you don't provide that instruction to me, then the current instruction determines at the end of this month, as you quite rightly pointed out, this would be the last meeting. So absent of an instruction, otherwise then the staff have already started working on a mechanism by which members from the public could attend. However, their numbers would be restricted to between 2 and at the very maximum 4 persons for each meeting, and we'll be working towards providing a mechanism whereby people could essentially book in. It'd be not in the public's interest to have large numbers or larger numbers than we can allow turn up and then be refused entry. So we'll be working on a mechanism by which we can allow that participation in a COVID-safe and administratively reasonable manner, Mr Chairman. There's a long sentence, I'm sorry about that.
No, all good. So effectively, the first meeting in April will be open to the public with the conditions of booking in advance, etc.
Yes, Mr Chairman, unless you instruct me
No,
otherwise.
I think Councillor Tui.
Just through the chair, in relation to the people being allowed back in, which I think is good, would it be on a rotational basis? I mean, we don't want the same. Oh, well, it depends who wishes to come, obviously. But if Mr. and Mrs. Smith have come this week and Mr. and Mrs. Jones wish to come to the next meeting, obviously we would have some sort of way that facilitate. Oh, that's my question. I don't know how. Do we, or can we, or should we? That's my question.
Through you, Mr Chairman, there's no rules on that, but I'd humbly suggest that would only be fair and reasonable, that someone couldn't, for example, pre-book every meeting from here until Kingdom Come and thereby deny anybody else the opportunity for participation. However, that's just my personal opinion.
Okay, any further general business? If not, we'll move on to the confidential item 8, and would somebody move that we go into committee, please? Councillor Baines, second by Councillor Tui. All in favour? Yeah, all in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All good, Daniel? Okay, councillors, would somebody move that we go out of committee, please? Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Confidential, item 8.1, page 184, the native title claim, and hand over to Mr Horton to present his report.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The report is about the Warragamay people claim. Native title, area of 2,499 kilometres. Parks covers the land of the Cassowary Coast region. We have 3 parcels in that area, Mr Mayor. The recommendation is there. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you, Mr Horton. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Barnes.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, Mr Horton. We don't require any, we don't receive any rates from any of this land that we're in conversation about now, do we?
Through the chair, no, councillor, we do not receive rates or state allocated land, national park and so forth, so council doesn't receive rates on those aspects.
Any further questions for the officer? Councillor Baines? You're moving? Seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, council.
That's the end of our meeting. 10:55. Closed. Thank you.